I can see the numbers are growing. Good morning, Prof. Boysen. Thanks for being a loyal member of this boardroom.
He's gone through probation.
Colleagues, we requested yesterday that we're going to move with a little bit of speed. There's a commission already that is reporting and is likely to finish by the time we're here. So we won't take much of your time, and we'll request we keep as short as possible. With me is the head of elections now and campaigns, Nomvula Munkonyane. What is her name? Pauline. She will report on the organizational renewal and elections. But let me just indicate one issue. There was a report this morning by the steering committee, so that you don't get it through some other vibes, of an incident that we were dealing with, that the steering committee is a political structure responsible for the running overall of the conference. There's an incident, or as you are aware, that there were adopted rules of the conference, among others, the issues of language, slander, malign, and character assassination. Whilst the conference is in session, there were comrades in the General Council who were discussing, among others, the happenings through some social platform, Facebook, and they were using language that would discourage in terms of the rules. We will not go into details about who they are because they've got their own rights, but that matter has been referred to the DC because we believe that members of the organization can be engaged in social platforms to deal with members of the organization in a manner that they were dealing with in the organization, because they are here, they should have raised those issues in the organization, but the DC with time will lay charges and so on, and then it will make announcements that are appropriate. Nomvula?
Thank you very much. Good morning, fellow South Africans. We've presented a consolidated report on organization building and elections. This issue was discussed by all commissions. Every commission yesterday until lunchtime deliberated on this particular matter because it is so important in the life of the ANC. Amongst the issues that we dealt with were the areas of the reassertion of the ANC values in the way that ANC members and leaders conduct themselves. We then reflected on organizational renewal, looking broadly on general issues, but then zooming into the issues of the membership and the functionality of our ANC branches, as well as just the ANC and its own way of serving our communities. And then the third area was dealing with the negative practices and tendencies that the President alluded to. One of those was on the role of the Integrity Commission, dealing with factionalism and all other forms of dividing ANC members during elective conferences, but also in the course of deployment and the implementation of the ANC program. And then the last issue on this area was around the management and implementation of disciplinary measures within the African National Congress. Then the fourth one was on cadre development, and the fifth was on elections. I'm not going to give you a report like we did in plenary, but just to give you things that are quite critical. That amongst the things that we have raised is that every member of the African National Congress must take responsibility as an individual of his or her own conduct, and that no member owes allegiance to any other member of the African National Congress, and that we must all subscribe to the values of selflessness, discipline, criticism and self-criticism, respect for collective leadership, and so on and so forth. But secondly, that on the issues of values, that there must be an insistence that every member, a new member that gets recruited into the African National Congress, and in every meeting of the African National Congress, members must actually recite, present themselves and go through the oath that say, I have joined the ANC voluntarily, I do not come to the ANC with any expectation, that I have not followed anybody, and that I'm here to serve the people of South Africa and the ANC. You can Google, you'll see the detail of the oath, including those that have left the ANC. One of the things that came out of the commissions is that we must make sure that even those that come in the probation period, the 6 months, we need to ensure that they are given information of the critical documents of the ANC through the eye of the needle, 2, the issues around back to basics, how to serve and work in the community. 3, understanding the oath of the African National Congress. And 4thly, being able to play a role that will make the ANC to grow in the community where you live. Because of critical importance, it is the issue of the role of a member and giving back also the power of a branch. That it is the branch that has the most important responsibility in the ANC. Amongst others, it is the branch that must shape and influence policy in the African National Congress. It is the basic unit, the branch, that must also influence and determine the election of a leader. And one of the things that came out was that as we come to elective conferences, the branch mandate is important compared to a consolidated position that emerges as a regional position if you go into a provincial conference, or a provincial position when you're coming to a national conference, because conferences of the ANC are conferences of branches. And that, for us, we believe, is another way of killing the slates, killing factions, because it then empowers a delegate to carry the mandate. So the mandate can't disappear before the branch member reaches a decision-making conference. So this is but one of the things that we are reasserting. Other thing is that as we do work, we need to make sure that the validation of an existence of the ANC branch must no longer be on the basis of the signature of an individual, on the basis of a proof of payment only. It must also be on the basis of the life of the branch in that ward. Activities of that branch, serving the communities, not just meeting amongst themselves, and monthly general meetings where there's a roll call, so that then members whose membership lapses can be told in that general meeting. And that quarterly, there will also be a community report back by members of the ANC on the work that government is doing. The other critical thing that has come is that we must reassert the authority of the branch of the ANC by ensuring that those that are deployed into government, as and when they're going to do work in Ward 1, eThekwini region, going to implement a housing project or a school, the first point of call must be the branch of the ANC. It must be the branch that knows what exactly is the minister coming to do, what exactly is the mayor coming to do, so that then the members of the ANC can be up there informing communities and even being able to demonstrate that this minister, this MEC is here to implement the programs of the African National Congress. The other thing is on the Integrity Commission. On the Integrity Commission, we reaffirmed the decision of the conference to have an Integrity Commission. In that reaffirmation, amongst other things, we said the commission is constituted of members of the African National Congress whose record is not questionable, who do not have any interest whatsoever in terms of contesting for leadership. And therefore, as we give this commission the responsibility, we must also give it the authority to make decisions. And that upon making those decisions, the commission can then present those decisions, not recommendations, decisions to the National Executive Committee, so that the ANC can be appraised of that. The other thing that we have said is that that must be granted with an understanding that any issue against any member must be thoroughly investigated, and members and structures of the ANC must guard against this particular noble idea being abused for political reasons. So that then in the midst of our own internal issues, including our opponents, issues or labeling character assassination of ANC members is not used as a way then of dealing with our own. And that upon thorough investigation, a commission may determine as to what must happen to a member. Upon thorough investigation, they may actually say, step aside whilst you are investigating. It will be based on those processes, and the ANC must resource that commission so that then it must have those means of making sure that their judgment is based on thorough work that has been done to collect the information, and also having given the affected member of the ANC an opportunity for a hearing. Within that context as well, in dealing with issues of ill discipline, the General Council has also come out with a proposal that says we must deal and nip ill discipline where it actually happens. But amongst other things that we have to do is to create processes where if members are aggrieved from one level to the other, they must have somebody who will be an ear that they can talk to. The first point of call is the secretary of the province. The second point of call should be somebody that the ANC identifies, or a team that the ANC identifies of veterans that are credible, who can then come in, and all you do is to go and talk to them about your dissatisfaction of how you have been treated in the African National Congress. Some in a form of a counselor, somebody who can help you to deal with your issues. Thirdly, that as we do these kind of issues, these kind of interventions, we need to also ensure that we avoid a situation where members opt to go to court because of the unfairness of the processes, or a perceived unfairness. And that then also requires a transparent process where if you are aggrieved in the province, it can't be the province that listens to you. It must be elevated. If you are aggrieved about an issue in the region, and through a structure, not as individuals, it must then be elevated to the province. From the province, if you are aggrieved, you can elevate to a national level. The other thing that is quite important that we believe came out of this conference on, it's around monitoring and evaluation. That the ANC itself must institutionalize monitoring and evaluation on a monthly basis. There must be an evaluation of how many branches have met this month, and have we issued the things that branches must do, implementation of the program, and quarterly there must be a report to the NEC on the life of the ANC through the consolidation of the branch reports that are going to come through monitoring and evaluation, and that it must be located in the office of the Secretary General. And in the provinces, it must be located in the office of the Provincial Secretary. On membership, we are also saying we need to accelerate and roll out what we are now putting in place in terms of a new smart method of membership. And amongst the other things that came out here, the General Council has supported an idea of putting together a provisional membership card, so that then whilst you are going through probation, you have a provisional form of identity to say, I have applied for to be a member of the ANC. And upon the 6 months expiring, it must be the responsibility of the branch to then call back the member, so that the member can again come and take an oath and be given a new card. And one of the things that we have also resolved is that the production must happen more at a regional level, so that then it is much closer to our structures as compared to production taking place at a national level, and that the records of members must be something that is not confined to those that are elected into positions, because that's where manipulation happens. That's where those of us who are elected members of the ANC in one office or the other will want to reduce the size of the branch, or will want to take Zizi's form out of the file. But in this instance, what we want to do is to say we need a system that can permanently capture the information such that there cannot be manipulation. There will be, in a smart way, the protection of access in terms of coding for every branch, for every region, including the individuals. There must be just a few of us in the ANC who can have access into the system and actually deal with changing information in that system. If you find time, you can go on the other end. There is a demonstration site where we are demonstrating how this new system is going to function. So that is what we have dealt with on organizational renewal. On elections, one of the critical things is that this General Council has also resolved that we need in strategic municipalities to select mayoral candidates before the local government elections, so that then they become the face of the campaign, so that then we can go together with the communities into the elections knowing who's going to be the mayor. Linked to that is, again, a national intervention on the selection, particularly in the strategic municipalities. Just as we have done now with Nelson Mandela, it is that has also been embraced by the council. The other thing on elections is that we are not going to be going to our people to go and ask them what we must do for them. We are going to be going to our communities to go and report on what we have been able to do, share our own experiences of what has happened over the last 5 years, and respond to their concerns. So voter contact that actually is based on sharing of information is going to be the main issue. And we, before the end of this year, are going to be training all our national leaders in the provinces, in the regions, NEC members, ministers, mayors, on a package of the state of local government, what we have delivered, linked to the progress made on the implementation of the NDP, but zooming into each and every municipality and up to a ward, because we have reports of how far we have gone on the implementation of the IDPs that are annually adopted by the municipalities. And the last thing on elections is that we are determined to even make a difference in Cape Town. We are also quite sure that we will consolidate our presence and increase our percentage in all those metros where our percentages had gone down, because all of us have come to realize that the internal squabbles are the ones that cause the irritation from the ANC voters, because they don't actually move to vote for other parties, they opt to stay at home. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Pauline. We'll take just one round of 3 questions, because already the other commission is finished in terms of reporting. Stephen, Ranjeni, Prof, you are only 3 people.
Stephen Curtis, Eyewitness News. Hello, ma'am. Can I ask, you talk about the mandate of the branches. Is there a discussion then about removing the anonymous voting? In other words, if you're an ANC delegate at a conference and you vote for a leader, you vote in secret, which makes it impossible to know if someone actually fulfilled the mandate of their branch or not. And this is a problem other organizations have as well. Is there a suggestion then that a delegate of a branch will be able to say, this is who I voted for, or a branch will be able to ask that person who they voted for?
Ranjani?
I'm Ranjani Mansami from the Daily Maverick. With the Integrity Commission, is there going to be an appeal mechanism? So if they recommend that somebody step aside and action be taken against them, if those members remain aggrieved, can they go to any other body to appeal that, or the structures that may be supporting them, can they then appeal those decisions of the Integrity Commission, or are those decisions final? Yeah, thank you.
Prof?
Thank you, Susan Boyson. If you talk about all these problems in the authenticity of current membership records, of membership problems in the branches, how confident are you that the current numbers we have about the branch memberships and overall membership is authentic? And the second one, what's happened in the debates about the principle of innocent until proven guilty? We know there was big debate on that one, and there seemed to be continued resistance from some areas and provinces against that, and against members being asked to voluntarily step down unless they are convicted in a court, and that has court of law, and that has implications for the investigations that you said must be done in branches, etc., when there are cases of ill discipline. It would be nice to know what ill discipline is as well.
Were you in the commission, Prof? I'm joking.
Actually, that was going to my question.
You're the last. Okay, thanks, Nomvula.
Can I add to my question? With the Integrity Commission, does it work in retrospect? So, for example, cases that have already gone by and people where investigations are pending against them, will the Integrity Commission now look at those people, or is this just moving forward from this NGC onwards?
Thanks. Secret voting is going to be something that we continue applying, correctly so. What we are trying to emphasize is that the branch mandate disappears when we start saying let's consolidate at a regional level and so forth. So a branch member, when a branch had nominated Comrade Y, the branches that have nominated Comrade Y will be actually put together, and there's been a proposal that possibly a threshold of 10% must make Comrade Y's nomination to then come in and be a name that is consolidated. So the branch delegate doesn't have to go everywhere and say, I have voted for so and so, because it will be through the electoral process of the ANC that Comrade Y's name will actually emerge, and the system must actually show that the name got a support from 200 branches, or from 60 branches, or from 14 branches. The other issue on the Integrity Commission, the appeal mechanisms. Once the IC has taken a decision, it brings the decision to the National Executive Committee of the ANC. And remember, in that process, the affected comrade would have an opportunity to interact with the commission. Thirdly, the commission is not going to work on the basis of what other people are saying. It will be on the basis of its own independent investigation, and having interacted with the member affected or implicated. And through that process, you are then not going to be just focusing on what the court says, because that is one of the things that is being raised. And it is not only about criminal offenses. It is also about how you conduct yourself. You can go to the Integrity Commission. You always come to the meetings late. There's somebody who's complaining that you are the one who's circulating wrong information. You are the one who's bad-mouthing the leadership. And those are things that must go to the Integrity Commission. You are the one who's running a faction. Those are the things. So it's not only about what the courts, about criminal issues, but where the courts are implicated, even there, the Integrity Commission is all that it is looking at is what is in the best interest of the African National Congress, and what the court, not what the court judgment is saying about a member. The issues of membership, that is why we are now reporting, and that is why we now are saying we've got a new membership system that we've been piloting. We are now rolling it out. We've been distributing membership cards, and that on its own has helped us to really believe that we now have something that really can stand the test of time, to say it has credibility, because it is less manipulated or managed by political leadership, but it is something that is scientific and can help every member to be protected. And the innocent until proven guilty, I think I've responded. I don't know which provinces, but there were about 9 commissions, and there were discussions and different views on those issues. And then we consolidated the reports that came from all those commissions into a report of a commission. As to other provinces and stuff, I'm not sure about it, because remember, it was individual. When you go to commissions, it's not a province. It's the delegate in the council that engages.
And the report presented is a consolidated report. It reflects the majority view in all the commissions. You may have 1 or 2 people, Prof, who may not like it, but the majority view is what is consolidated. Thank you very much. No. Thank you very much. The next commission is already outside. Thank you very much, Nomvula.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Implementation of this commission.
Come again?
Implementation of the commission.
The commission is functional already. Yes, and the council actually said the commission must continue with the work, including the one that is in their own systems, and that is it. The new powers, it's not actually new powers. What we're seeking to do is that it must now act on the basis of this with immediate effect.
Thanks very much, Nomvula. We can now attend to the next commission. Balance of forces. Just highlights of the briefing in the commission.
Well, thanks, Comrade Ziz, and good morning, everyone. The Commission on the Balance of Forces, by and large, agreed with our characterization of the current conjuncture, both domestically and globally. The discussions we had yesterday, particularly on the key areas relating to both objective and subjective factors, tilting the balance of forces in this way or that way, which we had quite an extensive discussion yesterday, is affirmed by the National General Council, and I'm very certain most of you went through the documents as we had the discussion yesterday. There would be some emphasis, though, in one area or the other in the discussion, but as I say, that the NGC felt that we correctly analyzed the situation and were able to identify correctly the challenges and the opportunities the revolutionary movement has, that at a broader level, for instance, the assertion of a capitalist mode of production being dominant and forming this unipolar world today is accepted. So is the features which we have noticed over time of secondary multipolar structures, including the emergence of BRICS and so on, is affirmed. So is the assertion we have made that the progressive forces the world over enjoy a better space in the world today, morally, and they stand a chance to effect an alternative narrative to the status quo globally. So at that broad level, there is agreement, and as I said, that there are specific areas, matters of emphasis, which Comrade Joel will speak to, emerging out of the commissions, all of them, as they said yesterday.
Okay, thank you very much. The balance of forces document was discussed in all the 8 commissions, as was the issue of organizational renewal and elections. I would want to argue that to understand the significance of the resolution that has been adopted by the NGC, you need to study the balance of forces discussion document itself, which I think is a tour de force on the strength that the ANC has currently, but also a document that is very honest in its self-criticism of things that are being done wrongly by the ANC or difficulties that we might be facing in the environment. We also need to make the point that the balance of forces document is not a strategy and tactics document. That was adopted at a conference in Mangaung as well as Polokwane, and this NGC reaffirmed what is in the strategy and tactics documents, but advised that as we move towards the next conference, we should start drafting a new one. And so all the commissions, as has been indicated, adopted the broad analysis that is contained in that balance of forces discussion document. They also identified a few issues that require further reflection. For instance, the mushrooming of civil society, organs out there in society, which is a positive thing. But for the ANC, the challenge is, why are we not able to give leadership and influence some of these civil society organs? There was also a contribution that we need to look at the root causes of the weaknesses in the ANC, which are influenced, amongst others, by what we call the sins of incumbency. And those sins of incumbency then undermine the capacity of the ANC to mobilize society. You would have, in the earlier presentation, have gotten the report about the Integrity Commission, and that was also accepted in broad terms in the context of balance of forces. Amongst the major things that the ANC has to do to transform society is to ensure, as the National Development Plan says, that we build a capable developmental state. There are efforts that are being made to attain that, but there are also weaknesses which are reflected in many agencies within the state. And the resolution is that those weaknesses should be addressed as a matter of agency. And some of these arise from the actions or omissions of the leadership of the ANC that is deployed in some of these institutions in government. And those weaknesses have got the effect of undermining people's confidence in government and in the ANC. On social cohesion and nation building, the fundamental issue that arose is that in order to build what the ANC refers to as a national democratic society, it is critical that the national development plan should be implemented. And for the national development plan to be implemented, besides capacity of the state, there is a responsibility to build a social compact amongst all the role players in society: the state, civil society, the business community, as well as the labor movement. There was also some reflection on the emergent middle strata in society, mainly black, which is a positive outcome of the process of change. It was agreed that we need further analysis on how we relate and engage these strata that are emerging. They are not an enemy of the process of change. They are in fact part of the motive forces of that process. And we need to develop approaches of how to engage them, to the extent that some of them might not be fully happy with what is happening out there in society. In conclusion, the NGC reaffirmed the ANC's commitment that we need continually to shift this balance of forces in favor of the process of change. But to do so, the ANC will need to have both the capacity and the will to implement its decisions. Failure to ensure that this happens will, in fact, as the document on the balance of forces says, put the National Democratic Revolution in danger. So overall, that's what the resolution covers. Thank you.
Thanks very much to the comrades. We'll take Genevieve, this is Sophie. No. I want someone new now, not you, Ranjan. Yes, because you are many. Right at the back, Patton. I remember I did not take it the other day, please. 4. Genevieve?
Genevieve from News 24. On the Integrity Committee, you say, we've heard that they say that the Integrity Committee is going to have to make decisions and not recommendations. So how binding are those decisions going to be? Because I've heard there's been talk that some people are worried about the fact that it can't be a parallel structure to the NEC, and the NEC should process any decision taken by the Integrity Committee. So who makes the ultimate decision in the end, and how binding is the Integrity Commission's decisions?
Sophie?
I just want, on the balance of forces, looking at international perspective, the recently concluded United Nations General Assembly was kind of dominated by tension between US and Russia. And at the UN, the president was clear that the transformation of the United Nations, particularly the Security Council, has to happen. But how is South Africa going to lobby other groups, or where it takes part in different structures to ensure that that happens?
Carol?
Firstly, on the question of the community protests and the upsurge in community protests, how did the commission or the commissions interpret that? What's their meaning? What do they understand that to be the meaning of? Does it mean that there is more kind of an insurrectionary climate, or is it just sort of some kind of dissatisfaction, but everyone really still loves the ANC? And then secondly, just did the commissions in the balance of forces, did you look at the COSATU split and whether that impacted on the balance of forces at all? Thanks.
Charles from Media 24. You've spoken a lot about the primacy of BRICS and the significance of the grouping. The question that I want to pose to you is actually a question that's posed in your discussion document, which is, you say that as China climbs up the manufacturing sophistication ladder, some transnational corporations and Chinese companies are considering African countries for relocation in search of cheap labor. And you then say, is this a necessary evil that the continent should welcome as a phase in its development journey? So I pose that question to you.
This question was asked yesterday. Where's Kotani? Yeah, that's your question. You know. Ranjani?
Thank you very much. Did I understand you correctly to say that part of the weaknesses is the cadre deployment in the state? And if that is so, what is the alternative to that? Thank you.
My name is Muthengan from SABC. Mr. Nitson, you spoke about social cohesion. I just want to know as to whether this, there were things like South Africa introducing a new identity, a national anthem being sung at schools, and the national flag being displayed hoisted in our schools. I just want to know as to whether this was adopted, and things like what they're going to do to make sure that our people, don't destroy buildings during protests, because they are, people protesting for a road and they go and pen a library which is supposed to benefit them.
Thank you.
That's my question.
Some of the questions I would skip, especially those which were asked yesterday, and I responded on. I would ask Joel to deal with them. Well, on the Integrity Commission, I think we did make a point that there is a sentiment which come as a result of concern within the rank and file of our movement that something drastically needs to be done. I think we must underline that point, that people feel that some of the things which are said and associated with the ANC are far removed from what the ANC is all about. And therefore, what is it that we should do radically, notwithstanding the principle of innocent until proven guilty, but it emphasized that determination from the membership, looking at many scenarios which will bring about this commitment of our movement as a people's movement. I think we must emphasize that kind. So that's why people would even look at how do you go around this very important principle of our jurisprudence. The tension at UNGA, which just happened, the movement has always participated in the discussion and the push to reform the multilateral institutions, and that remains the key program of our movement. The tension can be characterized in especially between Russia and the US, can be characterized in a number of ways. Firstly, how in our document, the main document, the strategy and tactics, we characterize the situation in the world today as this unipolar world led and dominated by this hyperpower we refer to as the US. Naturally, there was going to be tension if you were going to witness the emergence of another powerful bloc, be it a bloc or an individual country within the BRICS member countries, like Russia, which has been singled out here in this particular question. But even if you look broader, there is a rivalry and tension, even as it relates to US and China. So there is going to be that tension, which will continue precisely because, as I said, the world today is characterized by an alternative voice not wanting to give up that you have this unipolar world and therefore nothing should happen. It will continue to happen because you definitely want to see this other voice in the global politics. I'll leave the issue of community protest. We spoke about it yesterday. I'll leave the issue of BRICS and China as a necessary evil. The question which were asked and which is asked back as well. Comrade Joel will deal with that. The issue of the wrongfulness of CADA deployment. I'll leave that to Joel to deal with and so on. But I think on COSATU and what is happening within COSATU, we do raise in the document, again, posing a question whether or not as a movement, in all what we have done, relentlessly having the leadership of our movement deciding at the leadership level that the Comrade Deputy President and the DSG should actually lead the process of engaging COSATU for a purpose of unity, because what drives us in such interventions and engagement is the bedrock of what this movement is all about, which is unity of our people, and that finds more expression in the unity of the progressive forces themselves. So, in the document, we are asking whether we've done everything, all of us, in our conduct, in our pronouncements publicly, whether what we have done, taking everything together, gives us comfort that indeed all of us were doing one and the same thing and having one objective of the unity of this progressive trade union movement, which is part of the broader movement. So we probed that, even in the commissions. That was one area which got attention in the discussion, as it were. So I think, as I said, we will leave others, including the issue of nation building, the flags, and so on. Comrade Joel would be able to deal with those.
Okay, thanks. Just quickly to start off with the issue of the Integrity Commission. There is an in-principle agreement that it should be given, or they should be given more teeth. That's the National Integrity Commission as well as the provincial ones. Where there might be debate is on matters of detail. How do you appoint especially the provincial ones in such a way that they will be accepted by everyone as objective? Those kinds of details that are being debated. Otherwise, the principle itself is accepted. On the UN General Assembly, just to indicate, you will have people on international relations coming later, and they will be able to deal with those questions. There were questions around protests and our reading of these protests. The point that needs to be made here is that protests have been taking place over many years now. What was characteristic of the earlier trends was that you would find these protests happening mainly in areas where there's social delivery. People might be quarreling about who's being employed, why is this not happening across the railway line or across the street. You would find that most of them were led by even leaders, local leaders of the ANC. Some would say in the spirit of what people would call the Puma Singene syndrome. You lead a protest so that you can replace those who are in government already in the local councils. And when elections came, because those leaders of the protests were then nominated to become candidate councillors, the turnout in that area would be higher than in other parts of the country, and the ANC would perform even better in those areas where you had protests. But there is a change in the trends, and this is what is concerning us. The first thing is that in a number of instances, the protests relate not only to delivery of services as such, but also to the quality of the services. So the pipes have been laid, but water doesn't come out of that. Secondly, which is a major area of concern, is that some of them are in fact provoked by the conduct of the leadership in the various localities. I would give one example that you would all be familiar with. Brett Mututlung last year, where even one person died. And when investigations happened, it became clear that some councillors and some bureaucrats in Mututlung in fact sabotaged the water reticulation system so that they could get a cut when water vendors deliver water to that community. So corruption directly impacting on service delivery. And people respond to that with anger. That's another characteristic that we've noted. And the other one, which is also worrying, I'm relying on you now from your media reports. There was another incident in the same period in an area called Relela in Limpopo, where that community woke up in the morning and their immediate target was the police station, in spite of the fact that the police were there and armed. And so the concern here would become that rather than the security forces acting merely as a last line of defense in any democracy, you find instances where they are both the first and the last line of defense, deriving amongst others from poor capacity, poor implementation of programs by government, but also what some would call institutionally entrenched venality in some of the governmental structures. Those would be the changes that worry us, and it's a trend that needs to be addressed by the ANC. There was the question about China and offshoring. This is an objective phenomenon that is happening that we cannot close our eyes to. The question is how we respond to it. What is happening is that China is now ratcheting up the wages of its workers. China is now climbing up the manufacturing sophistication ladder. And as that happens, those major multinationals that were located in China, and even some Chinese companies, are offshoring to Vietnam, to Bangladesh and other areas. And a new trend that has started is offshoring to Africa. If you study what is happening in Ethiopia, for instance, there are major shoe manufacturing companies that have been set up by Chinese owners in that area. Now, the logic behind this is that they will go to areas where the costs are low, including the cost of labor. And Africa needs to debate this question. As a philosophical approach, the Chinese and many of the developmental states in Southeast Asia deliberately chose a path where they would start at the lowest level of manufacturing capability. Then the sophistication improved. That is why now this offshoring is happening. Should Africa accept that in some instances that is a phase through which it can go? And I'm talking about this in relation to the continent as a whole. With regard to South Africa, the challenge arises because of the two economies that we have. There are workers who are already enjoying decent work. And there is no way in which you might want to undermine the rights that they enjoy. There is the challenge of absorbing the mass of unemployed people, especially young people. Do you then introduce IDZs and other approaches that will attract these companies so that over time ourselves we can climb up the manufacturing ladder? So I'm responding to your question with a question because this is a debate that's unresolved yet. But it's an important debate that should be had all the same. With regard to the issue of cadre deployment, it's not so much the principle of cadre deployment that might be responsible for some of the weaknesses that we have in state-owned enterprises, development finance institutions, government departments, and so on and so forth. So it's not so much that principle. The question is whether the people who are deployed in some instances are in fact cadres, because one would believe that cadres appropriate for particular forms of deployment should first and foremost have the qualifications. They should have the orientation to be able to do the job, but they should also fully understand the program of government. And there are certain instances where the deployments have in fact been unfortunate, to put it mildly, leading to all kinds of shenanigans in the state-owned enterprises, which undermine their effectiveness, which in turn undermines the capacity of the ANC to build that developmental state that would be able to guide economic activity. The comrades in the commissions were very frank about this, and they are saying the matter should be urgently addressed. The matters to do with social cohesion, I think they've been broadly dealt with. Social cohesion depends first and foremost on whether you are improving people's quality of life. Secondly, it would depend in the broader sense whether you are implementing the National Development Plan. But beyond that, there are matters to do with ideas. matters to do with identity in society that need to be addressed. And there is a commission that was dealing with that, which will, I suppose, also brief you. If I were just to give one example, I would believe personally that it is not a matter of accident that you are having these protests in the universities, because the sense amongst the young people in these universities is that the kind of education that they are getting is not fully relevant to the realities in South Africa. And therefore, changing curricula at all levels should be one of the elements that need to be dealt with in order to improve social cohesion and nation building. Thanks.
Thanks very much, both to Comrade Nati and Comrade Joel. The next commission is ready.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
There's
so
no time
much.
for filing, eh?
No, sure.
And you say ANC people don't work hard.
Okay,
Did they
we'll give
say
you 10
that?
minutes for filing.
It's too much. They are still going to have the sectoral. Yeah.
The principle is accepted. Because among the issues that have arisen, some of their pronouncements will be on NEC members themselves. That is why it has been decided to fight.
NEC can't change this. Thank you so much.
Whilst you are filing, the president is going to PPF exhibition at 12. Deputy at 12. Those who want to follow that, 12 o'clock, the deputy president, PPF. No. I need to get someone else reporting now from There's a break of 10 minutes. I know they need to file at least. Let's give them 10 minutes. And before, don't see you.
Oh, he's doing a market station about how you register in a new make and modernized thing. There's nothing there. He's going there.
But international relations, you know,
So that's why you're coming.
So that's why I'm being close. No.
You're going to ask about Al-Bashir.
No, but you must focus on and you need for
So it's almost like a sequel of this.
Yes.
I like the commission the way you are reporting. It was organizing what it raised. It was also raised by balance of forces, there.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm going to take
No, because I want to because the people that were stuff on social media. I wanted to ask if does do you have a social media policy? What does it say?
It tells them on the basis of
Guidance or
what you don't use current assassination, the language you can incite into analyze. We use executive.
how many people?
I don't even know.
You don't have any answer for my question.
Yeah. What's the next commission?
International relations. Okay. No.
What I was
It's outside. SABC.
The next briefing is they should have it. We're not gonna thank you so
At least then we can do it, because I sent them 6 so I'll give them checks about now, and now, so yours can go through, and then I'll cover the next one as well, and then we'll discuss
Delegates. Why you ask these questions? You don't know. No, I was trying to push I've not seen the analysis.
But you are saying goodbye. I thought you had the plane.
No, bro.
I saw you saying goodbye.
Contestation. That decides, eh?
Okay, guys. Shabazan, just show.
No,
I'm telling you, I know. Who is why he couldn't be
Thank you for not punishing me.
I saw your. I must put some rules here. We'll discipline you like those delegates.
They'll send you to the integrity.
Three hands. And the ones that you open.
aside
Sorry.
from.
No, but that actually means getting something other than this.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
So how you are doing?
Couscous. Who's it?
Just use that one. She obviously tweeted from there. You know what's happening? This is the touch screen there. So it's just 5 and you press there. Yeah. Just remember to tick that one. Sweet. Then I'm quickly going to go there. But you'll give us a bit more time. I'm going to leave this here. And then let me go and do that quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.